Welcome to News9. You are watching MediaVerse and it's time from On Point. Now, Israel's offensive inside Gaza has not started. Even bombing of Gaza has come down. The fate of 199 hostages remain unknown. But what has become apparent on your face is that the consensus eludes on the current crisis. Different countries have different priorities, but the terror attack on Israel has sharpened the global ideological divide. Instead of uniting the world, it has further divided them. Instead of standing against terror, different shades of opinion have come. And I think in the shades of opinion, in order to search for a nuance, if I may put it this way, the truth is being lost. Sometimes you lose the truth in nuance, and truth is nothing but something very evident, blunt, straight in front of you, and that is what happened to the Israelis on that fateful Saturday, where 1,300 of them got massacred for no reason, just because of the fact that they belong to a state. Now, before I take forward this conversation, introduce my guest, let me take you through the details first, and what we know of the war, and how the war has panned out. What are the latest figures? People should have an idea. So, I'm going to tell you about the hate crimes later. I'm going to talk about later, but I'm going to talk about first, what do we know of the war? And when we talk about the war, I'm talking about the numbers. And when I'm talking about the numbers, I'm going to tell you what's the real data. The data is 2,800 Palestinians, 1,400 Israelis killed. Over 10,000 injured due to Israeli strikes. At least 199 hostages in Gaza. Eleven Palestinian journalists have been killed. At least 5 lakh Israelis displaced. More than 10 lakh in Gaza. Simultaneously 15 lakh. And now I'm going to tell you how this hate has panned out. Aditya, people think that they have the right to run a hate tracker in India. It's fashion. But I'm going to run a hate tracker. How people from Israeli community are being attacked. And how people from other communities are also being attacked. This is a 6-year-old boy was slapped 26 times by a landlord in Illinois, in USA. That's a hate crime. Israeli embassy staffer attacked and stabbed in broad daylight in Beijing. A French teacher killed and 2 others wounded in a knife attack in Arras, France. 2 Palestinians in Pakistan attacked after they objected to the harassment of a female student in Pakistan. 2 Swedish nationals shot dead in Brussels. Now, this is the hate tracker we are running, that how deeply this issue has divided people. And the shooter identifies himself as an Islamic State member, claims responsibility online. So this is the hate attack. This is the terror attack which took place in Sweden. The Swedish Prime Minister had to say that we Europeans need to defend themselves. And I'm going to run it every day. And now, before I introduce my guest, I'll be joined by Yael. She is sister of Ophir. And Ophir is a hostage in Gaza. I'll also be joined by Major General retired Israel Reeve. He fought with his pistol, shot down 4 terrorists, rescued relatives, his family and other people. And I'll also be joined by Abhijit Ayya Mitra, Senior Researcher, Fellow Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies. But in studio with me will be my Executive Editor, Aditya Raj Kaul. Aditya, I'll take an opening comment from you and I'll play out a package. It's a small 1-minute package of a woman who lost, 93-year-old woman who will tell us how she lost so many people in her long life. But don't you think that instead of uniting on the issue of terror, universities, places of intellect, they have actually not been able to articulate a united stand against terror. In fact, in nuance, they have lost the gravity of truth, if I may put it this way.
Absolutely. Very well said, Karthikeya. What we have witnessed over the last 11 days is horrific, defense of terrorism, horrific defense of murder, of lynching, of the kind of barbarity that we haven't seen. 1,300 Israeli national civilians and foreigners being butchered, slaughtered completely in southern Israel. And there are university professors sitting in United States, in universities, in Harvard, in other places, who are trying to defend this, trying to give this an intellectual and a political defense. It's shocking. I mean, yes, people can identify with the Palestinian cause, people can be against it, people can identify with the atrocities or the just rights of the Palestinians, but who can defend terrorism?
Okay.
That is the big question.
Now let me play out that 1 minute package of a woman who tells a story of losing so many people in 93 years. Let's play out that package first.
Please send them free. Please do everything in order to free them. They are the best of our country. It is impossible to describe. It is impossible to describe creative, people-loving human beings. At night, I was watching TV and I realized that something was going on. The time was 8 in the morning. I was not calm. I called my dear son, Avshalom, and he didn't answer, again and again. I called Shoshan. I called everyone, and no one answered. I called Sharon, my daughter.
We don't have any certainty that our family is alive and that they're safe. And that's the first thing that we were asking. Whoever has the contact, whoever has the ability to make sure and demand that Hamas gives us proof that our family is alive and that they are all safe and that they are together. That's the first thing that we want. We're shifting between survival mode, that we need to do stuff and we need to create contacts and we have missions to do, and to being together and hurting and crying and just mainly when we go to sleep and when we wake up, that's the most difficult times.
So as I said, I have got Major General, retired Israel Ziv, live from Israel. I've got Abhijit Iyer Mitra, Senior Research Fellow, Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies, and Yael, sister of Afir. Yael, what's your message to the world? If you would have heard her, it's very clear that the world has not understood the misery, the sort of torture with the families of those who have been abducted and taken to Gaza. They have failed to understand.
Yes, I want the world will know, and showed the pictures of the horrible massacre that was taking place in Kibbutz Be'eri, where my nephew Ofir was being, just visiting his girlfriend. They are all high school students. He was sleeping there when at 1:30 in the afternoon, 3 terrorists with guns just got in the safe room, took them out brutally, and took them, Ofir and the father of his girlfriend, in a car. Yesterday we went to visit the survivors of Kibbutz Be'eri, and I heard two little children. One is 7, one is 12. That were all their family was shot in front of them, and they have been lying together, hugging themselves, each other, and their shotted parents, just to wait them to go. We didn't hear from Ofir the last 10 days. We are very, very worried. He's only 17 years old, innocent boy, didn't do anything. We heard stories about old people that were taken from their oxygen and just taken to Gaza. Thousands of terrorists just got in Israel sunny morning in Saturday and made here really like the Holocaust. It's really unbelievable what's happening here. Thousands of families doesn't know what happened to their people. It's really, I don't have words in Hebrew or in English or in any language to describe the horror we are living in. Thank you for hearing my story.
No, Yael, what I really want to know from you is the world missing something? Is the world missing the import of the gravity of situation, academizing an issue which has devastated so many lives and families? You know, I would use the word academizing an issue, losing the truth in the nuance of language and heavy words.
I think the world see the pictures from Gaza, and I'm a woman of peace. I want everyone to live in peace together, but it's not possible that thousands of terrorists can come inside villages of Israel, just shooting everyone around. The pictures you show now, I think it's picture from Gaza. That's what the world is seeing, but it didn't began like, you know. I think also maybe some of the people of Gaza are also hostages of the Hamas, but our children and our women and our old people are hostages there without doing anything. It's not possible to live like that. People all over the world has to understand that it's not possible to live like that. It's not possible. And start showing pictures from the murder people in Israel, that the world can understand what's happening here. And not only pictures from Gaza.
Yeah, hasn't the time come to dismantle Hamas the way Daesh or ISIS was dismantled? Completely. City by city?
Of course, I think...
Block by block.
I think I'm not a political person. I'm not an army person. I'm not a ministry of nothing. I just think people need to live quietly. And I think what the Hamas is doing is exactly what ISIS is doing. And I think Hamas has been considered exactly like ISIS and be destroyed and be not aware. People in the world has to be aware of what they're doing. It's exactly like ISIS. I think the world should know the things they're doing here. Yeah, and I want you on all TV channels, don't show only pictures from Gaza. Show pictures from Be'eri, from Kfar Aza, from Sderot, of innocent people, babies without their heads, lying on the walkways. It's unbelievable what we had here. It's unbelievable. You should show these pictures.
No, I think that's a very fair point, because if you would have seen the graphics when I came, I said that more than 5 lakh, which is equivalent to 0.5 million, internally displaced in Israel. When I spoke about Gaza, I said these are the Palestinians which have been killed. Internally, displacement is huge from the southern Israel. Before I let go of you, Yoel, the only thing I'll ask is there any intimation, is there any sort of information you have received from the government of the day about the whereabouts of Ophir?
We don't know anything about Ophir. We have contact people in the army and we have contact people from the government, but nobody knows nothing. I think they should bring everyone, all the innocent people home, and then Palestinian people should be against Hamas, because Hamas is not a political movement. Hamas is not a human movement. It's like ISIS. People in the world should understand it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shahid. And the reason why we also show these visuals is to prove the point that the Hamas has brought this misery to Gaza. This misery in Gaza is self-inflicted. I don't think that the bombing was taking place before that Saturday. The bombing took place after the Saturday. So when a terrorist organization decides to use its own people like cannon fodder, then I think it's a completely different ballgame. Now let me play out a release which I have, and it's about the global left. That's the third part of this debate, and then I open it for discussion. Statement on behalf of the Israel-based progressive and peace activists regarding debate over recent events in our region. We are also deeply concerned by inadequate response from certain American and European progressive regarding the targeting of Israeli civilians by Hamas, a response which reflects a disturbing trend in the global left political culture. The cycle of aggression severely undermines a long-standing struggle against oppression and violence in pursuit of full rights and equality for our residents of Israel and Palestine. At this moment, more than ever, we need support and solidarity from the global left in the form of an unequivocal call against indiscriminate violence towards civilians on both sides. However, to our dismay, some elements within the global left, individuals who were until now our political partners, have reacted with indifference to these horrific and sometimes even justified Hamas action. We never imagined that the individuals on the left, advocates of equality, freedom, justice and welfare, would reveal such an extreme moral insensitivity and political recklessness. We emphasize that there is a contradiction between staunchly opposing the Israeli subjugation and occupation of Palestinians and unequivocally condemning brutal acts of violence against innocent civilians. In fact, every consistent leftist must hold both positions simultaneously. Abhijit, your comments on this?
Look, I'm not surprised by it at all. You know, this kind of equivocation, how often have we seen it? You know, in India especially, every time an attack like this happens, how often have we seen the global left try to equate it to something or the other? You know, the Mumbai bomb blasts, when they happened, were a response to the bringing down of the Babri Masjid, the horrific purging and ethnic cleansing of 600,000 Kashmiri Pandits was a response to the, oppression that they had carried out apparently in Kashmir, etc., etc. We are very, very used to this. But what is surprising is that when you have something of such a massive scale, the death toll has gone up to 1,400, overwhelmingly non-combatants, women, children, unarmed men, party goers, music festival goers, not just killed, but brutally, sadistically tortured, killed, rape, killed, mutilated. I'm not even going to go into the horrors I've seen on the Al-Qassam Telegram channel, and they are celebrating this, by the way. They not just kill, they are also, and this is not Israeli TV showing us this. This is their own Telegram channel showing us this. And they are showing the desecration of corpses, of Jewish corpses after that. They take the corpses also as hostage very frequently because they know how important the dead are in Jewish culture. Have taken hostages again. And in spite of the absolute horror of this, the sheer moral equivalence, the silence on this, how do people actually live with themselves? I really don't know. But I'm glad people are seeing the left for what it is and what it has been doing in this case.
Let me go across to Major General Israel Ziv. Sir, am I audible to you?
Yes. Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining me. I went through your interview. I did a bit of a read. You know, Aditya was telling me you took you took your weapons when you heard that the terrorists had come in. Can you just take us through, and then you fought through and evacuated citizens and your relatives from one of the kibbutz, sir?
Yes, in short, I'm not the story. The story is what you are talking about. But yeah, personally, I live actually up north, and it took me like 1 hour to understand that something unusual is going on at around 7:30 that morning. So I took my uniform that I have it there all the time, and my pistol, and ran to the field, to see how can I help. The scenes were exactly. Could see that something I did not expect it. They really took over all the area. There were hundreds of terrorists all around, and not enough military to control and to contain the situation. So we have to break through the main roads, me and some squads that were there, in order to get to the kibbutzim, to see if we can evacuate or help to defend people. Along the way, I found one of my colleagues, General Tibon, that his son was trapped in one of the kibbutzim in Nahal Oz. So I told him to jump to the car, and we drove like hell, getting to that specific kibbutz. We engaged with the platoon of soldiers that also was handling fire in that area. And he went into the kibbutz to rescue his family, and I took my car and went to Be'eri, the kibbutz that Yael, that just talked, was there, and helped the forces, to take over. It took like 20 hours, I would say, even more, to gain control, not to end up the problem. We still had for a few days some terrorists around because there were so many. But it was tough, especially that we didn't imagine, such thing to take place. It was a complete surprise for us.
And okay, and when you heard the first part of our discussion, what part of the story which the world is not getting, that the Israel is victim of terrorism? How come this part of the story is turning around, that this is result of Israel perpetuating violence, not the other way around, that Israel is the victim?
Look, this is whoever comes to visit Israel could see the difference even without such a terrible and horrible event to take place. Because you come to Israel and you see everything is green, every penny is invested to build the country, the welfare, the progress, everything is positive. And once you cross to the Palestinian Authority and mainly to Gaza, and you like to see something similar is happening, and what you see is only money that goes to militants, and nothing is about progress, nothing is about welfare. They don't really care about their own population, and we saw what they are preparing. Even for our imagination, dealing with terrorism all our life, we could not foresee such a horrible and unhuman behavior. I mean, look, there were soldiers there. If the whole thing was against soldiers, it's a blow, but we could understand it. But what they have done to innocent people, go to their homes and just massacre with cold blood, and I don't want to go, into details because you're already telling them. This is something that even worse than ISIS. This is not human, and they don't have a right to exist. And this is what we are going to do. There's no option that Hamas will ever come back to Gaza. We'll do our best not to harm, uninvolved population, but everything connect to Hamas. Infrastructure, people, technology, everything. We're going to demolish, we're going to erase. Even Gaza will be a better place without the Hamas for their own population. And we see, by the way, they don't care about it. We try to evacuate population, and they keep them there to get harmed by our bombing, just in order to broadcast the pictures. Who is doing such a thing? For your own people.
Yes, correct. Absolutely. Animals. Absolutely. Aditya, when I played out that release, which has been signed by a number of people, doesn't that expose the duplicity of the global left?
It does. I mean, there are questions that need to be asked to the global left on their silence. In fact, I would term it as the silence of the lambs, because every time there is a question of duplicity or hypocrisy of government, they rightly point out that across the globe, they have condemned the United States when it comes to Afghanistan, when it comes to Iraq. They have questioned the Indian government on so-called hate. But, this vision is myopic. They only see one kind of hate, but not the entire picture. They are not just biased, but they are hypocritical as well. They condemn Israel for the so-called atrocities in Gaza or not giving rights to the Palestinian people, but they do not condemn terrorism. The global left is guilty of being completely silent and myopic in its vision of not condemning Islamist terrorism, which is not just visible in Gaza and southern Israel today, 1,300 victims being slaughtered completely and dying, but all across the globe in different areas and different capacities. I mean, in India, we've been victims of Islamist terrorism for decades together in the Kashmir Valley, in mainland India as well. There have been several terror attacks. And in India as well, we have seen the left completely silent, to that. In fact, in the last few days, Kartikeya, you would see a lot of left politicians and leaders have gone to the Palestinian embassy, but haven't issued even one statement, not in support of Israel. That's not expected, but at least condemning Hamas terrorism or in solidarity with the families of the victims of the 1,300 civilians and other foreigners who were killed in southern Israel. So who will answer for this global left? In India, the likes of Arundhati Roy, even the Islamist politicians and separatists have been completely silent, and I would go on to extent of saying that the global left has been in many ways in connivance and in bed with the Islamist jihadis, and that is quite visible, and it's time that we call them out.
Abhijit, the universities, places which are of deep thought, intellectual tradition, they have not taken a sort of a strong position on the issue of terrorism. It's like being globally politically correct.
I'm just glad that they've kept quiet. It's better if you have nothing to say to keep quiet. If you notice, Ashoka University, JNU, all these people, they haven't even come out with a statement. They haven't condemned, but they haven't supported either. And, I think in a situation like this, that is a good thing. That said, I think it's important we realize that, both the left and Islamists, they prey off people's vulnerabilities and victimhood complexities. Anywhere you look, when out of power, Islamists and leftists are the closest of allies. When they come to power, the other is usually the first constituency that gets eliminated. Anywhere that leftists come to power, even before class oppressors and petty bourgeois, they get rid of the Islamists. When the communists came to power in China, when they came to power in Russia, the first thing they did was to get rid of, even before the Christian church in Russia, the first thing they did was to get rid of the Central Asian imams and things like that and begin a process of westernization. Just like China began a process of Sinification. Similarly, after the Islamic Revolution in Iran, the first people they went after were not the loyalists of the Shah. It was actually the purges started in Mashhad, which was heavily leftist, against the academics and leftist intellectuals who stayed out there, who were the biggest allies when they were combating the Shah. So, these are contradictions that come out. The problem is when out of power, it's very, very dangerous. Even today, we need to understand, a lot of the language being used against Israel, we reject the action. You remember what happened with the Godhra riots? They said,
Abhijit, I have one supplementary to you. Anti-Semitism is not something which is there in India. It's not there. Millions, thousands of Israeli students come. They go to the Himachal sector. They go to the Ladakh sector. But politically, there is an aversion to the Israeli point of view. That is very, very strange. There is a civil society, coming in at a civil society level, there is no issue. There is no problem. You can find them in Leh, you can find them in Manali, they are more secure here. But there is a problem at a political level. Civil society does not have a problem. Vested political interests have a problem. That's so surprising.
I think you'll find that particular political constituency is now almost a joke. It is irrelevant. If you notice, the Palestinian so-called ambassador hosted a get-together, a solidarity meeting or whatever, and the only people who went where, F graders and former MPs and people who are politically irrelevant today. Nobody of any consequence was seen, whereas at one point of time, the Palestinian embassy used to have massive convening power. You look at the political discourse today, even several prominent leftists, most of them, in fact, except the Islamists, have come out to unequivocally condemn what happened on the 7th and 8th of October. We also need to understand that, a lot of things that are perceived as anti-Semitic in the West have no, Indians don't even understand them. Because, the kind of restrictions that were placed on Jews, usury, which is to say interest taking, is not a crime in India. It is not a religious this thing in India. So it was not considered dirty and left to the Jew. Things like blood libel. Our gods weren't killed allegedly by Jews, because this was the blood libel that was put on them, even though it was the Romans who crucified Jesus. So, most of what is anti-Semitism out there isn't even understood by the vast majority of Indians. Some of the reflexive statements, that come from certain small segments of the Muslim community in India against Jews are reflexive statements. When you actually take them aside and discuss, do you know what you're writing about? Do you know the blood libel and the protocols of the elders of Zion are circulated? When you ask them, do you even know what this is? And the answer is no, I don't. So, it's a very sort of a mixed thing. And especially in Kashmir, if you go to the Shia areas, they have pictures of, Soleimani, Qasem Soleimani and Hassan Nasrallah. And you ask them who these people are, they just know that there's somebody fighting injustice far away. It is used as a sort of placebo to not get involved in local terrorism and, externalize the conflict to some other place. So you'll actually find that what used to be, the problem is, you see, the left has lost narrative control. So you actually see that support for this kind of terrorism and is almost minuscule to non-existent. It used to be amplified in the past, and the left's loss of institutional control and narrative control means that everybody's beginning to see how solidly and staunchly most Indians, including Muslim Indians, are with Israel and what is right and what is true. I bet you Israel cares more about the average Gazan than Hamas does. Hamas are the worst kind of cowards hiding behind women and children. They have no shame. For all their culture of toxic machismo and all of that, what kind of a man hides behind women and children? They have bred. They have high fertility rates. 44% of Gaza is in fact children under 14. Why? So that they could be used as human shields. There are so many Hamas documents that openly talk about this, the creation of human shields to protect them. I am telling you, even today, Israel cares more even about the Gazan kid who comes out and shouts death to the Jew than Hamas does about those people.
I think that's a very interesting. I think that's a very interesting way of putting it. General Zaif, did you hear Abhijit speak about it? Did you hear Abhijit?
He's absolutely right. Look, the amazing thing is that, do you know how they had such a good intelligence, to go directly to the kibbutzim and in the kibbutz what to do? Because all that information came to them from the workers Israel allowed in from Gaza, and they were the people that actually we took care of, of their salaries, of bringing food to their own families. And they gave the information, and what we know, that some of them, by the way, joined the Hamas while attacking us, getting back to the kibbutz to rob, to steal, I don't know what else to do, but celebrating on the same people that gave them jobs, that gave them money, that feed them. This is the act they've done. Golda Meir used to say, when she was asked, when we will have peace with our enemies. So she said a very simple thing. When they going to love their people more than they hate us, then we will be able to make peace with them. But apparently the hatred is much stronger than they love their own people.
But General Zay, what's the I would say cure for this?
First, we have to stay strong as we always did. You know, we have done, I don't know, we many things, a long way trying to give the place for that Hamas so-called government, although it's actually terror government, to do kind of an informal recognition. We gave them water, we gave them electricity, by the way, for free. They didn't pay for that. We allowed them to come into Israel and to work. A few things I cannot even say when they had some pressure of problem of salaries. We were the one to put pressure on the Qatar to give them money. So, and our intention is to see them taking care of themselves. We have considered, you know, to help them to build a seaport and many other things in one condition. We ask them just to be, not to shoot at us, not to bother us. So we can take care of them in many ways, even, by the way, formally. If there was a situation, a political situation for that, if they put down their guns. But look what we've got for that.
But do you ever feel, General Zee, that what the world doesn't understand? For example, the Yom Kippur War, Israel was taken by surprise. Even in this attack, Israel has been taken by surprise. But instead of being treated like a victim of terror, you know, the people are talking about the long end of the history. You know, let's go back to 1948.
Look. First of all, yes, we were taken by surprise in '73, and by the way, on the same date, we're taking surprise in 2023. That doesn't flatter our intelligence and our military system, and it's a huge failure. But in this case, you know, a big part of the exam is not just when you fall, it's how you getting back on your feet. And this is what we are doing, unfortunately, under these severe conditions. But look, we understand that we are doomed to fight here for many more years. We still have very dear and important peace with Egypt, because there is leadership there. Maybe it's not the warmest peace, but it's reliable. It's proven as reliable. We have the same peace with Jordan. We wish to have the same thing with Lebanon, but it's impossible because the whole country is hostage of the Hezbollah. So Israel will aspire for peace all the time. And hopefully, if we will be able, as ISIS was removed, the Hamas is removed, and hopefully, maybe soon, who knows, the Hezbollah will remove, maybe we'll have a better Middle East without them that is more peaceful and more stable.
You know, isn't this very, I would say, I will not use the word surprising, but I would definitely say out of line that instead of helping Israel deal with Hamas, every country in the world is telling them not to go to Gaza but deal with Hamas. So how do you deal with Hamas without going into Gaza? So every world leader is landing in Israel to say that you stop your operations, do it slightly differently, when you know the entire system is out there.
Karthikeya, until you are victims of terrorism, you won't realize the consequences.
It's like bit of 26/11 for us.
Absolutely.
We got hit, don't react.
You know, India in many ways can relate more with Israel, can in fact empathize and sympathize with Israel more, because we've been victims of terrorism. It's not just with me, you know, because I'm from Kashmir and I've seen that for the last 3 decades, ever since I was born. But, you know, every Indian, every journalist, every person who has seen India in the last 4 decades has seen bomb blasts, has seen targeted assassinations, has seen terrorism in different forms and manifestations. And that's why We've taken a leading role globally to condemn terrorism, to bring in the year 1996 a convention at the United Nations. And imagine, the United Nations cannot come together not just to condemn terror, but to bring in a resolution and a convention to fight terrorism. That is the kind of embarrassment that we have. So I think United Nations has become a toothless tiger. It is appealing Israel to stop violence, but cannot stop any kind of terrorism and violence or build a global fight against terror.
Abhijit, a very interesting point by Aditya, when he spoke about the similar pressure exerted on us. And do you agree that India can actually understand the Israeli dilemma more than any other country? Something which we faced during 26/11 in context of our response, in context of our, what sort of collateral that Pakistan should undergo. And it subsequently became politicized, if I am not wrong, when the Balakot and operation took place and the one before, the surgical strike, if you recall, Abhijit.
Absolutely. Look, we always face pressure historically that when something happens to us, oh, please exercise restraint. Please be proportional. I'm sorry, what exactly is Israel meant to be proportional about? Is it meant to go around chopping off Palestinian babies' heads? Is it meant to go around raping Gazan women? Is it meant to torture, kill Gazan non-combatants? Is that what proportionality is? What proportionality do these people want? Every time attacks happen on India, please prevent escalation. Why is preventing escalation a one-sided obligation? I have never understood this. A lot of these canards that are spread, this is all about Jewish hatred and the hatred for Muslims, and they want to finish the unfinished project of ethnically cleansing the West Bank and Gaza. Absolute rubbish. You look at the way India's support for Israel is couched. They keep saying, oh, it is mutual hatred for Muslims. No, it isn't. Remember, Israel is a country which still has its original religion. A religion that was born out there was exported to Europe and North America, but Israel remained Jewish. Similarly, India remained Hindu. Religions that were born in India were exported abroad and became very famous, but India and Israel have a lot of touch points on here. We both retain our original religions, which were developed during the Bronze Age and probably go back much earlier in history. We both suffer from terrorism. We have both held out in our beliefs and our way of life for thousands of years. Obviously, you're going to have kinship and attachment with each other. And because we face the same kinds of threat, this is a cultural bond. It is a cultural hurt. It is the feeling of being attacked and the actual attack constantly, and having double standards, being lectured to, talked down to, and double standards applied on us. It has nothing to do with Islam or Muslims where this affection for Israel comes.
And a comment from you, Aditya, when we were discussing that universities like Harvard, celebrities who are social media influencers, they have not taken a stand and not even understanding the issue. Various celebrities in America who could have a larger say in molding public opinion, they have become neutral.
I'm not surprised, Kartikeya. I've seen this all my life. Me as a Kashmiri Pandit, I have to defend the kind of terrorism that we faced even 30 years ago.
Even stars from Mumbai.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we had the Kashmir files. Now, people could dislike the director. People could have an ideological war with the director, which is acceptable. But to deny that an ethnic cleansing happened or a forced exodus happened is shameful. For a political party to come ahead and say that, this is embarrassment and this is not the reality. And that's what is happening in Israel. I mean, interestingly, we had an Israeli filmmaker, a leftist filmmaker, who also came in and said that Kashmir files was fake. So we've experienced this for a very long time.
I would use the word convenient, it's politically convenient. And that is the reason why we picked up this topic, let the word be global left. But the larger idea here is that the war on terror or the terror attack on Israel should have ideologically united the entire world, that it's a common terror. Now, even after Al-Qaeda and ISIS, the world has not learned the lesson, then I would say I really don't know whom to pity. But the fact of the matter is that the terrorists and terrorism do not discriminate. They just don't discriminate. It's like climate warming, it's like, it's like it affects everyone. And so what has happened in Israel can also repeat itself in India. It can repeat itself in any South Asian countries, because what was committed on that day was not born out of a stalled political process. I think that's a lazy reason. It was born out of hatred, because the original charter of Hamas states that their objective is the destruction of the state of Israel.
ChatGPT. It can generate codes and human-like responses through text, write stories, and do a lot more.
I work in a newsroom with anchors, researchers and scriptwriters, graphic artists, producers,